Love life. This is Freshly Pressed. We're looking at the news stories making the headlines. As always, we love it when you're a part of the conversation. The WhatsApp number is 0809 440 981. You can also tweet at Smooth981. And we're streaming live on YouTube, so you can catch the live stream. Just search for Smooth981 on YouTube, and you can even post a comment on there. Our analysts this morning, Mr. C and Chibuzor. Good morning.
Good morning, Zibby. Good morning, Lagos. Nice being here this Monday.
Hi, Mr. C.
Good morning.
All right. So we're starting off with Daily Trust. The presidency has rejected the reports of the EU on the outcome of the 2023 general elections. Now, the EU report basically says trust in INEC had been severely damaged as a result of the failure to upload the results of the presidential election electronically.
Okay, thank you very much, Zibby. So the EU mission that monitors the general elections held in March and April has come out with its final report. And no surprises that they did indicate that the process was substantially lower than what INEC had promised. And they pointed out a few structural issues, such as the presidential appointment of the INEC chair, which would weaken his supposed independence. And they also pointed out to some of the incidents we witnessed. However, in a response from the president through his special advisor, Mr. Nwaezeapu, he rejected the report and insisted that the report was based on conjecture and a less than accurate account of what really transpired. Because according to them, that the incidents complained of happened in less than 1,000 polling units, and we had about 176,000 polling units all over the country. And saying that other reports issued by other bodies, such as the African Union and even the electoral set up by the Nigerian participation, indicate that Nigerians are satisfied with the conduct of the elections. Now, having said all of that, we must put certain things into proper context. There was a general media lookout, and it seems so on election day. But in a lot of the states, we truly did not know what was transpiring. Now, the incidents we're all aware of were because of the media coverage. Now, for the president and his team to suggest to Nigerians that this has been the most credible, the most transparent, and the most properly run election since 1999, I believe is a collective insult to Nigerians. Yes, they benefited from that exercise, but they shouldn't suggest that the election delivered what was promised. We must remember that the outcome of this election is being currently challenging. Now, my closer to them this morning, if the candidate was not declared the winner, will they hold this viewpoint? Because what is not good is not good, and we shouldn't pretend and hide because it benefits us. Our electoral process can do with a lot of stress. For them to suggest that the glitches we saw on election day, specifically the presidential election, where results could not be uploaded immediately, was provided for under law. And then you suggest that that was properly done.
All right, Mr. C. Thank you for that. Chibuzor, do you want to add?
Yes, so
reasonable of them to accept the report, and that's what it is. Thanks.
All right, thanks, Mr. C. Chibuzor?
I think one of my biggest problems in Nigeria, and one of the things I hope that this government I've been hoping for a government to actually put a break to it, is actually strive for excellence in this country. Government's position, and like Mr. C, is based on the fact that we won this election, so we do not want anything that speaks to the lack of credibility of the elections. And when some instances, you can actually pick and choose whatever statistics you need to push your case. Hello?
Yes, Chibuzor.
So in this instance, the government is relying on statistics that tends to support their viewpoint or their position that the elections were credible. And I do not expect otherwise. Obviously, like Mr. C said, they were the winners of the election, and you do not want anything that speaks to the lack of credibility of an election that you won. But what I would always say is that what people would say, don't throw away the baby and the bathwater. Whatever has happened, and it's clear that these election results are still being contested in court as of today. We need to look at the fact that the elections in itself, and if you want to be true to itself, there was truth in what people were saying. There were instances where the election did not go free and fair. How widespread is something that needs to be determined by the court, or how important it was to the actual results was something that still needs to be determined by the court. But can we improve our electoral process? Is our electoral process fit for use? Do we have instances where people are being stopped from voting as they choose to vote? Do we have instances where things that were supposed to work in particular ways did not work? Yes. Those are the things that we need to focus on. That's what the government, if they won't have any sincerity, I want to actually move this system and this system to what actually works and what can stand the test of time, need to be working on and asking questions about. Why did this fail? Why did that fail? Unless we've decided I want to build a system that works in a particular way so that we can tweak it and it can move it to favor us at any point of will. And that isn't something that stands the test of time or something that is excellent. We need to be excellent as a country. I'm hoping one government one day, or some people one day, would actually take us closer to that point. But that like we say in Nigeria. So let's keep managing.
All right. Next headline comes from Premium Times. The 200 billion naira supplementary budget forwarded to the River State House of Assembly by the governor of the state, Siminalayi Fubara, has passed through a first reading. Now, the budget was contained a request letter that was read by the Speaker of the House, Martins Amehule, during plenary on Friday.
Okay, so I don't know, there's really nothing much here. The government has basically gone to go and source for a 200 million supplementary budget to act to whatever budget has started had been passed late last year for 2023, and this seems to be one of the first major actions of the new government and new governor. And my challenge with some of these things, and this is big, this is, like I said, it's one of the first actions of the new governor, and we'll probably see a bit more from other governors, I suspect. Unfortunately, what the story doesn't tell us is the source of funding, how this supplementary budget will be funded, why they've had to go and get a supplementary budget, because if the budget process ended some months ago, less than 6 months ago for the new year. So if we're already running in the month of June, this is the month of July. We're not in July, sorry. If we got in the month of July, we're already looking at a supplementary budget, then it also speaks to what happened on the budgetary processes, what built up the need for the government to have grown to get this supplementary budget at this point of the year. Was there an additional spend that came up, or did they have excess spending from the start of the year to this point? What I'll task people with, especially within Rivers State, is that we need Nigerian citizens, and I'll use the word citizens, especially Rivers State, you need to be a bit more watchful about what is being spent on their behalf, what is being spent from their funds. I need to ask the relevant questions. A lot of the states are in serious debt, and unfortunately for the people, we cannot speak to the value that was created by the debt. We had seen instances of particular governors who spent state funds like their personal piggy banks, making donations here and there before the last elections, going to places and splashing out. In fact, a lot of organizations targeted particular governments and were inviting them for events because they knew they would come and splash out. My challenge was not them splashing, and my challenge is whose money were they spending? Were they spending from their private pockets, or were they spending from the state coffers? And some of the states are now going to begin to reap some of the effects of these things. A lot of the governors at that point were last-term governors, so they basically did not have to account for what they were doing at those points. Nigerians need to ask the right questions. Nigerians need to hold their governments to account. Nigerians need to stop celebrating the fact that people are spending their money and doing not
All
more of the
right.
burden.
Thank you, Chibuzor, for that. Let's go on to some messages coming through via WhatsApp. Anthony says, I know that Dele Alake is speaking to or trying to convince the EU with the statements and not the Nigerian electorate. I really don't envy the work of judges at this time. Our eyes are on the tribunal. And Gab says, I think the response is from a standpoint of guilt rather than objectivity, because if the EU had taken note of unfair practices, they should be accepted, audited, and make improvements where needed. You're listening to Freshly Pressed on Smooth 98.1. We're looking at the news stories that are making the headlines across the country. As always, we love it when you're a part of the conversation. So let us know what your thoughts are. The WhatsApp number is 0809 444 981. You can also tweet at Smooth981. And don't forget, we're streaming live on YouTube as well at Smooth981 FM Lagos. And you can post a comment on there. JP says, my question is, of what use are the state houses of assembly? It's not for citizens to ask and get no answer, but legislative state arms doing their jobs, not being rubber coated. All right, thank you, JP, for your message. You're listening to Freshly Pressed on Smooth 98.1. Do stay with us. The show continues shortly. Tell Miriam to call Mr. C.
Hi, my name is Greg. I'm glad you stay tuned to Smooth 98.1. An orchestra. What you do, it's like listening to a symphony of body parts directed by a bass drum. It is like watching a G clef stroll across an octave accented by its sharp. When you talk, cadence of the voice is a tenor saxophone, making love to a cello at perfect pitch. And you are so smooth. That's why we keep
Mr. C. Mr. C is still on the road. He's still en route.
Yeah, but it seems like he was disconnected, like his signal.
Yeah, I saw that coming.
You're gonna do WhatsApp? Okay. Okay. All right. Okay, Chibuzor. So we'll do we'll go to 6, yeah. Ondo governments. Smooth 98.1, love music, love life. This is Freshly Pressed. We're looking at the news stories that are making the headlines across the country. Let us know what your thoughts are. WhatsApp number is 0809 444 981. You can also tweet at Smooth981. You can catch the live stream up on our YouTube channel. Just search for Smooth981 and you can even post a comment on there as well. From Vanguard, Ondo government sets up military and paramilitary stations to tackle kidnapping. Now, the government has approved these stations in the northern senatorial districts of the state. Now, the stations are situated at Imoru in the Oshe Council area. According to the state commander of Amotekun, Adetunji Adeleye, the efforts were to protect the people of the states.
Okay, so yes, obviously, this 2023, we still have the issues of the headsmen or kidnappers or brigands or whatever we choose to call them in whatever season. So Ondo State is taking a set of proactive actions to be able to protect their citizens from attacks of this type of individuals. If you recall, some years ago, I think it's about 2 years now, where they officially set up the Amotekun. I don't know if it's the group. I don't want to call them a brigade, but the Amotekun group, which is basically, I don't know how to define them now. It's a militia force of some kind, which is being empowered by the various state governments across most of the Southwest to be able to tackle this. And we've had different types of similar groups across the entire country. Now, obviously, these groups are being set up to, Amotekun was set up to help solve a particular type of problem, which was largely kidnapper issues, heading killings across the major highways in the particular areas, especially in the southwest. And one of the core things was able to guide a large expanse of land in forested areas. The southwest, conventional army and conventional forces probably did not have access to, had limited access to. So the governor in this instance they've set up some particular points within the state to be able to, what they've called their state paramilitary stations. They've set up several paramilitary stations. Unfortunately, I'm not sure the story gives us the number of stations they've set up in these various areas. And they said that they have a combined force of the paramilitary and military forces. I would really like to know what, when we say paramilitary and military, I'm expecting that there's some was a cooperation with the military forces, either the army, whatever form of the military that is within the area that is going to work with these paramilitary forces. With the fact that Amatekun has been included in this story, I'm assuming that probably the form likely they are the paramilitary forces, although they are both in militia. But yes, in one case, we actually do need to see this kind of instances or this kind of corporations or actions work, because we do know that our military is quite overstretched. And in reality, what the people that should be, the police obviously are limited in number. So groups like the Amotekun are useful. How we keep them in line and how the governors keep them in line and keep them doing the work they ought to be doing are the challenges that the governments will face. How effective this strategy would be measured over a period of time when we see whatever has happened. But we need more corporations and stronger corporations between these forces in various places to ensure that we have some levels of security. So at this point, I say it's a good one. Let's watch and see, and let's evaluate and see how well this works in the future. I think the governor was able to also sneak in a call to, I think what was the Muslim community or to, during the celebrations to basically encourage their people to keep an eye on the criminal elements within those spaces. I think that's basically the summary of the story, really.
All right, let's look at a few messages coming through. Don't forget, you want to get your thoughts. WhatsApp number 0809440981. PJ says the EU reports was point of fact. It beats the imagination why the government is telling the EU to back off. And this one is, okay, I can't see a name here. It says, quick question. If the Labour Party is adjudged to be the winner of the last elections, would it have been credible with 95.4% of the votes in Anambra State, but less than 10% in the North? Okay. Keep them coming. 0809440981. From Premium Times. 7 people were abducted in an attack during night prayers at a church in southwestern Nigeria. The pastor of that church was killed in the attack, and others abducted on Saturday nights.
Okay, so unfortunately, the last story we're talking about was in Ondo State, where the government was trying to put in some measures to prevent or reduce this kind of occurrences. Unfortunately, we're looking at another state where this happened in Ogun State, which is close by here where we are in Lagos State. This actually happened at a Redeemed Church. This happened at a Redeemed Church at the Obafemi Owode municipality. What we have, the police were said to have tracked down some of the suspects, and one of them was killed, and 7 victims were hurt in the attack, although the pastor was killed. Basically, it's unfortunate that when people have to lose their lives at any point in this kind of situations and circumstances. And it's sadder where it happens if it's preventable and when we feel that, there's a lot of work that needs, but just also there's a lot of work that needs to be done in our security apparatus. A lot of the story speaks to the fact that the president has appointed new people in charge of the entire security system in the country. And this is a reminder to them. There's lots of work in a hurry to see the outcomes of the appointment, that are the fruits of the work that needs to be done. I hope, like every other Nigerian, that these guys get into action and settle down in their jobs and do make the changes that not only make us more secure, but also make the organizations that they are managing and they're in charge of more professional in the way they relate both with the citizens and the way they do their work. It's sad, like I said, once again, it's sad that people had to lose their lives, or people have to lose their lives on a daily basis. I do like the fact that we've taken note that there's 7 people. It's one of the things that saddens me in reports when media carry, Nigerians are dead, or where there are no specific numbers. Maybe someday we'll be able to feel the impact of how many people we lose to these things that we believe are preventable, both in terms of violent crime and also preventable health losses, maybe in other instances. So it's sad for the families who have lost their dead. We wish them God's strength in dealing with them, but we hope that we have a better nation where we start seeing less and less of these stories and this news going forward. Yeah.
All right. Thank you for that, Chibuzor. Let's move on to Punch. SERAP, which is a socioeconomic rights and accountability project, is urging the president to use his good offices to urgently publish details of spending of about 400 billion naira so far saved as a result of the removal of the subsidy on PMS.
Okay, so thank you, Zibby. So on Inauguration Day, the current president announced the end of the fuel subsidy regime. And of course, that brought its attendant shocks. But he did promise Nigerians that the savings from the termination of that program would be used to make life better for Nigerians across different facets of the economy. Now, SERAP has taken him up on that pledge. And as we already know, we've done a full calendar month without the fuel subsidy in place. Now, the federal government had estimated that it would save about 400 billion naira each month from terminating the program. So safe to say, using the federal government's own estimates, Nigeria should have 400 billion naira sitting somewhere. We must also put into context the fact that no known palliatives have been announced yet, because the federal government and organized labor have still been engaged in talks, and we haven't been briefed on the final outcome of those talks. So it's a good challenge to the current president. If he's minded to take up the challenge, he should explain to Nigerians where the 400 billion naira is, if it hasn't been spent. And if it has been spent, we would like to know what it has been spent on. And more importantly, how that spending was authorized. Because to spend money, the National Assembly has to authorize the expenditure. So it's 2 things. Has the money been spent? If yes, how and where? If no, what is the plan for deploying that money? To what areas of the economy are you planning to deploy the money? If you're planning to give it to the vulnerable Nigerian families who number in the tens of millions, how is that process going to be conducted? Over what period of time? What is the minimum amount you're going to give to each family? So these are questions. And they've also thrown a further challenge that for further months, starting from this month, which is July, going forward, it would also be good if the current president could tell Nigerians clearly how he intends to deploy the savings from the termination of the fuel subsidy program. Now, it's sad to say this. As we're ending one subsidy, we will be starting at least one other subsidy in the name of palliatives or easing the cost of living. But the truth of the matter is, as we terminated the fuel subsidy program, attendant shocks have come up everywhere. So there are basic needs that need to be sorted out, and all of them have been thrown into more shock. There's housing, there's food, there's transport, there's even healthcare, there's mobility. So, and we must note that the minimum wage hasn't been adjusted yet to meet all of this, and we still have the annual and ever-present issue of rising inflation. So let's not deceive ourselves. The fuel subsidy will go, but there will be some sort of subsidy that will come up, at least one, to replace it. Now, like I've steadily maintained, subsidies in themselves are not bad. What is bad is the faulty and corrupt way we were running the old fuel subsidy regime, which only benefited a few privileged individuals. And it's a bit saddening and a bit disappointing to note that the federal government, past and present, have lacked the political will to bring to book these privileged individuals who have illegally and unlawfully benefited from the extant fuel subsidy program, because it shows a lack of seriousness in tackling corruption in its basest, rawest form. And until we're able to do that, I don't know where we are, but I'm hoping that this current administration will actually answer the challenge of Sarah, because the previous administration truly couldn't be bothered. I hope there will be a refreshing difference.
All right. From Daily Trust, parents and students parents and students of universities across the country have cried out over the hike in the school fees. Now, they say the developments could worsen their current economic pains and lead to mass withdrawals of students.
Okay, so very quickly, this is really sad, but we must put everything into context. Now, all our schools cannot absorb the millions of Nigerians who leave secondary schools each year. So we have millions of Nigerians who are literally stuck after secondary school with little or no hope of tertiary education. Now, tertiary education, we've been complaining for years that it is poorly funded, and it is now crystal clear, even to the very blind, that the governments, both at national and subnational levels, cannot fund tertiary education. So because the school fees are not cost reflective. Now there is a move to make them cost reflective, which is very sad, because there are millions of Nigerian families, especially students who come from families of civil servants, who are poorly paid and not even paid on time. Now, to the rescue, an education bank was announced. Has the funding been put in place for the education bank? We don't know yet. And it will be a big mystery where the funding is going to come from, because right now Nigeria is scraping for every naira, every kobo it can get. Now, even the procedure for accessing the loans, has it been made crystal clear to the people who will benefit from it? Has it been explained or broken down to them in English they will understand, English they will comprehend? Have the universities put in place modalities and a procedure to ensure that it doesn't become cumbersome to get the signatures of both the vice chancellors and the dean of student affairs as required under the law? These are many, many questions, but the truth of the matter is, if we want education to retain its pride of place in Nigerian society, we have to fund it properly. And the subsidies which are currently in place, both at national and subnational levels, have to go.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. C, for that. Chibuzor, did you want to add anything?
So I've heard what Mr. C said, and I agree to a large extent. What my major criticism of this, like every other thing, is that we basically put the cart before the horse. There was an announcement made less than a month. No things to my because this is government and things don't happen overnight. But we're already seeing is a reaction within the schools. What you already have is a system where people's disposable income, in fact, there's nothing like disposable income, because every dime is going on increased costs in the country. There are increased power costs people are expecting, increased costs on fuel, which affects every other thing. We talked about subsidy and how it works, but it basically affects every single expense. Housing has gone up to threefold in some points. Everything is going. So when you look at all that, I look at asking parents who are already in school to carry this additional burden, then we have a big problem brewing, and we're going to see a lot of social unrest. And let's see how the government manages. But yeah, we put the cart before the horse as usual, and we hope the Nigerians will manage and find their way through the mess.
All right, I'm going to take one more message. This is from JP. He says, sadly, it's business as usual on the subsidy prosecution of those found wanting. NNPC needs to have a team without baggage to run her. Thank you, Caxton, for that. And that's all the time that we have for Freshly Pressed this morning. Thanks for listening. Thanks for your messages. And of course, special thanks to our analysts as well, Mr. C and Chibuzor, for joining us.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Take care. Bye. Mr. C, take care.